Hi and welcome to this tutorial. I'm gonna show you how to make use of RegionKing for your production scene, how to get fast variations of shading, lighting, and how to get the best render settings for your scene. RegionKing will help you to make fast previews and variations, and I'm gonna show you how to use it. So let's get started with getting our RegionKing into the scene. There's different ways to load RegionKing into your scene. You can just open RegionKing and then copy and paste the RegionKing object into your scene, like this. Also, you can use the File Merge Objects command and load RegionKing. This will load RegionKing and this null, which you can delete. Another way is to use the content browser. If you have set up RegionKing in your content browser, you can just drag this into your scene. You will see this HUD display and also a layer called RegionKing. You can toggle it on and off, but normally you won't need this to touch. In the RegionKing null object, you will see options to change the appearance of the handles and the elements, and also you can change the color. And there's other options I will talk about later. Okay, let's talk about the HUD. I'm gonna change this first to a blue color so we can see it better. You can drag the corners of the region to adjust it, and you can drag the center dot to adjust the whole region. If you drag a corner and then press Alt, you adjust the region symmetrical, and by double-clicking on the region, you reset it to the center. Another thing you can do is hold Shift and press on the center, and now the region is turned off. The gray handles indicate that. Let's talk about these options. If you have Team Render set up, this option will use Team Render each time you send a region to the render queue. So this will speed up the workflow a lot, and it works with animation and also with still frames. So if you have Team Render, turn this on. Create Results folder. This will create a separate folder where all the RegionKing's files are stored. To make this work, you need to work with absolute texture paths. Or you can go to your Program Settings, File, and define a texture path here. If you check this to your texture path, it will work also. Or you can use the Texture Manager. As you can see, all the textures here are set to relative paths. The suggested path is only the file name without any folder. So Cinema 4D will only search in the text folder for these assets. In order to globalize these files, you can select all, go to Edit, and globalize file names. Now you can see that all textures have a absolute texture path. This makes sure that RegionKing can find the textures. If you don't use this option, it works also with relative paths. Okay, so now we are set to make our first rendering. I'm opening the render queue now to see what's happening, because all renderings that you send with RegionKing will be rendered in the render queue. So now let's talk about these icons. The first one will send still images. So this will render the current frame of your animation. The second one will take the preview region you set here. In this case, 36 frames. The third one here will take the manual settings you set here in the render settings. So if you set this to 19, it will render 20 frames. The last one here will render all frames of your animation. This icon here is to turn off the render region, but you will still see two icons on the upper left to render still images, and this to turn on the region again. So now I will set up my region to render this door and hit this button. This will start a new render job which is incremental saved, and this will just render. If you go into your jobs folder, you will see this RegionKing results folder with a stills folder, and here you see the scene file which is incremental saved and the result. If you later render animations, here will be another folder for animations. But you don't need to use the Finder to inspect your renderings. You can just double click on this render job and this will open the render result. So this is a easy way to inspect your render results and compare render times here with the render time. So now let's make a full rendering of the frame. So I turn off the region and press render again. This will render again in the render queue, and it will take only a few seconds as I'm using Team Render. So let's see the result. So this is a standard lightning with physical sky, and I want to make this more exciting now. So now I want to make some variations of the light. So I take the physical sky time and render a version more in the morning. So 9:30 in the morning, and I will render this. If you have selected something here and it won't render, you can also just click twice on this icon and it will render. So while this is rendering, I am making another variation. Let's try something in the afternoon and render this. And let's just try another one which is in the night. Let's make it 8 o'clock. So the first version has rendered. So this was the morning version. This is a bit more orange. And this is the afternoon version. And the evening version just finished. So this is too late. No light at all. So let's see which version we like, which light situation. This is dramatic with long shadows. I kind of like it. And this is the morning. So if you have decided which version you like, you can just hit right click on the version and press Edit Project. And this will open the project which is saved in the RegionKing results. And now you can keep editing with this version. Just to have everything in order, I will make a save as and overwrite my original file. Because if I keep editing in the results folder, this will make a messy structure here. So I will save it here in my root folder. Let's call it afternoon. And now let's keep working with this version. To get better light distribution, I will add a global illumination effect. And I will just use the physical sky preset here. So let's make a render of this. When this is finished, I'm gonna work on the shaders a bit, because right now the shaders are not so good set up. Let's make some more reflections and specular settings here. Let's work on the door. So I'm gonna open the door shader, and in reflectance I remove the specular and add a GGX reflection model with a very rough surface. And I will just use the same color shader, copy this channel to the layer mask, and we'll make a filter to reduce the saturation and make it more contrasty. And I will reduce the reflection quite a bit. So let's see what that gives us. So this is the rendering with global illumination. And I think I have to rework the mapping of the floor. This is too bumpy. So let's work on the floor a bit. So I will use here more tiles. Let's take 6 by 6. And also I will decrease the normal strength and the displacement. And let's render. So this is the new material of the door. This is before and this is after. Let's do the same for this material of this, how you would call it, I don't know. So I'm gonna take this material and also add a GGX reflection model. I will also take the diffuse channel, copy it, paste it to the layer mask, add a filter, reduce saturation and increase contrast. And I will also add a Fresnel. Let's not make it metallic, but dielectric, which is more like materials that are more diffuse, like asphalt. Okay, let's just try it. So the last version here has rendered with the new mapping of the ground. So this was way too big. Now it's better. But I don't like the color of the floor. Mm, let's go into the floor color channel and add a filter. And let's shift the hue to make it more reddish and a bit less saturated. And render another version. So here we have the new material for this car. You see it's a bit more shiny on the wheels. Or I guess less shiny because of the Fresnel. Okay. It's less shiny because I added the Fresnel, so I go back. This is too much Fresnel. Let's try to play with the gamma here. This looks better. And I render another version. So let's check the result of the floor. This is giving some interesting colored dots here. I guess this is because of the changed hue. So I will just make this not happening and reduce just the saturation. And again, render. So this is my new material for this car. And I think this is better now. Now we have some reflections. Now I see we have some issues here with this rope. So I need to go into the scene, get this rope, and just adjust this spline points here. Let's see the last rendering. So the floor is okay. Now what I don't like is the appearance of this little tree here. So let's do something about the leaves. So I will add a backlit shader here maybe. Let's try it. A greenish color. Just try it. The good thing about RegionKing is you can try a lot of stuff and it will render in the background and you don't worry about so much. So just let it render and try as many variations as you like. This should be fine. Okay, so now I see this is way too much. So I added too much illumination here. So I will take this way down to like 15. Also, I don't like the color of this cup here. So I will reduce this and make the bump a little stronger. And also maybe the mapping is not quite good, so I will check this. Okay, this is UV mapped, so let's try 0.05. What else could we do? Maybe I will add a second light source and make some more shadowing effects. So for this I will do following trick. I will go out to my scene. I will add a spotlight. And this spotlight will be a shadow maker for the scene. So I will place it somewhere like here. And then I will take the ivy here and copy it. And I will now drag it in front of the light, so it will cast some shadows to give it some effect that some trees are around here. I just need to make the light source here a shadow. This is already on, so let's see how this looks like. So this is our new tree material. Maybe I have reduced it too much now. Let's increase it again to 35 maybe. So now you see some shadowing going on here, but the light overall is too bright now. So I will go into this shadow light. Let's call it shadow. Oops, shadow. And let's turn off diffuse, or better, reduce the intensity here and just increase the area shadow density to 140. What else could we do? The wood material is not so nice, so let's work on that. Let's remove the specular and get the GGX. You see, I use GGX all the time. I think it's the best reflection model for most materials, I mean. And let's add a layer mask. If it's a quick and dirty job, I usually use the diffuse map and just make it a bit contrasty and less saturated. In this case, that's fine. It's not a piece of art, but it's working. Let's see if we do a Fresnel. Let's do pet. And let's change the diffuse and make it less effective. Okay. I guess that's enough. So let's make another preview. So the last one has finished. My last trick with the shadow has not had so much effect, so let's increase this to 160 and decrease this even more. Or maybe this rendering was without this setting, I'm not sure now. Let's wait for the next result. Okay, now the shadowing effect is more dramatic. I just don't like the placement so much. Let's work on that. So let's group the tree structure underneath the light. So I can now move the light and try this one. While this is rendering, I will just play a bit with animation. So I copy my... No, I will just use the create camera menu item here. Camera, and I will add a camera. And I will add a camera crane tag. So let's see what's that. So the camera crane is quite interesting because you can use this to animate a camera like in real world with all the movements like a dolly camera would make. So what you can make, you can, for example, add a target to the head and let's move it base link. Okay, we need a base link here. So let's use a spline and add this spline. So now you can move the camera on this spline. But I want more to get a up to down camera move. Or maybe down, up. So let's do some animation here. let's find some interesting perspectives here. And let's do a keyframe on position and heading and pitch. Oh, I made these on the wrong frame. So let's do this. Heading, pitch. Okay, let's go to the last frame. Move the camera a bit. And set the keyframes. So let's look at this animation. Okay, nothing fancy here, so I'm not sure if I'm content. Let's move the spline a bit. I think I am going too far here. Okay, let's just render this. So just that you see what's the process. So I will set this to hardware and I will render the complete preview range here. So I will turn render region off and render the preview region. As you can see, the region has a name with ending of sec. This is for sequences. So this was my last still image, which is finished. Let's pretend we are really happy. Maybe do some color corrections. And here this will render my sequence if it starts running. Maybe we can set up in the meantime some color correction. So I will add a color correction filter. And I think we can do some grading here. So let's do some grading, some more contrast. Some more exposure. And maybe less green. And let's do a preview rendering of this frame. The sequence is not rendering for some reason. So I will just stop it and throw it away if I can. Stopped. And so you can always manage your renderings also by using these options here to stop and start and delete jobs from the render queue. You can also reorder these jobs. What's happening here? I'm trying to get out some animation. Maybe some hardware issue here. Let's turn off Enhanced OpenGL. And I will just try it again. Turn off region and render sequence. Oh yeah, this is my color correction. Way too much. I need to adjust this. The grading is too much. And also, I guess, the exposure is way too much. Let's try this one. I wonder why a sequence is not rendering here. But I will just stop it. And I will do a standard rendering with lower resolution. And I will just render it without hardware render. So to speed this up, I will now fast forward the screencast. So now finally the sequence is rendered, and I can inspect it in the picture viewer by double-clicking on the job here. So this is only 19 frames. I'm wondering. Maybe that's because I set it to manual and used the manual command instead of the frame range here. But we have an idea. So this is more or less how you would work with RegionKing. There's a lot of more to discover, and there are workflows to enhance, and I will make a second video as soon as I can about some tips and tricks how to improve the workflow even more. But I think now you have an idea how RegionKing is working and how you work with versions and variations. So, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial and have fun with RegionKing. Goodbye.